The only one that qualifies is
At large.
I'll take it.
No.
I'll take it. Doesn't bother me. Yep.
We're on.
At large ego.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the meeting of the North Ogden City Council. We appreciate everyone being here. Welcome you this wonderful evening. Invite everyone to please turn your cell phones off or put those on silent during the meeting. And we'll begin our meeting, as we always do here in North Ogden City, with a pledge of allegiance and invocation. And let's see, who's been asked to do those? John tonight? Okay, so our city administrator, city attorney, John Call, is going to offer the invocation and then lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful to Thee for this day, for this beautiful earth, and for the community in which we live. Please bless us this night, that as we discuss options for the community, that we will be guided to the right decision, and that we'll be able to listen to concerns and to respond in ways that are the most appropriate and will have the best impact on our city. We're grateful so much for our wonderful opportunities in this country in which we live, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Stand and repeat after me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That proves that an attorney.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. To start, a little friendly reminder as well, if our meetings are live streamed on YouTube. We've got a large viral audience, usually 5 to 10 people or some others that watch it, but just heads up, our camera is over there, and please remember, council, speak into the microphone so everyone can hear online, and then also just take that into consideration, ladies and gentlemen, for anything you say will go on to the internet for a long time. So please just keep that in mind, and we'll start our meeting. First, I wanted to share something real quick. This is special day. June 6th was the day, D-Day, in 1944. So special reminder that our American soldiers and allies in 1944 on June 6th stormed onto the beaches of Normandy to free Europe from Nazi Germany. Just thought I'd read a quick little excerpt from what General Dwight D. Eisenhower said that day. He sent a letter. Most of the American soldiers didn't know D-Day was coming or what the objective was. They knew they had a mission, but because of the secrecy, no one knew exactly where they were going other than the highest commanders. But then the night before, General Eisenhower issued a letter that he had read to all the soldiers before they, and seamen and airmen before they went into the battle. Just thought I'd read a little bit of that quickly because I think it's great to remember what happened that many years ago. So he said, "You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world." And then future President Eisenhower closes. He says, "I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let all beseech the blessings of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking." Dwight D. Eisenhower. So special remembrance to all of our great veterans, especially those that went ashore on June 6th, 1944 to free the world from the evils of Nazism. With that, council, will move on to our agenda today. We have 3 sets of minutes for approval in the consent agenda. Are there any comments on these minutes or discussion on the minutes?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Then that passes unanimously. And we'll now move to public comments. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your opportunity. If there's anything you'd like to share with the city council tonight, we'd love to hear from you at this time. We invite you forward. We do just ask for your name and address, as your comments will become part of the record of this meeting.
So my name's Ryan Brown. The address is 1356 East, 2600 North. And so I'm just here to protest with what I got in the mail from the county. And what that was is it was a letter basically forcing us to become annexed into the city. And so let me just explain a little bit. I have an acre of property, so half of that is in the city, and then the other half is in the county. And so they're wanting to annex that other half into the city. And I just feel that it's unfair. I mean, it seems like, I don't know if it's coming from the city or if this is coming, I mean, obviously the letter's coming from the county, and then we're supposed to go have a public hearing on the 10th at 8:30 to protest. And so from what I understand is once we protest, then the city still has to decide whether they are going to accept us being annexed into the city or reject it. And I am unclear. I've done some research though, and it seems like maybe like Roy City and North Ogden City have kind of come together and tried to get a House bill pushed through, which created some legislation in 2017 to be able to basically force us to do this. And with that, I'm going to have to pay higher property taxes. I'm going to have to become, under city rule. And we do have a business. It's just a little horse business. I operate that with my mom. And so there's going to be some undue burdens with that we're going to have to comply with city rules to be able to be in compliant with it. And so I got looking around and I looked at some of the islands, and according to the Weber County website, their interactive map, I noticed that even the own city public works building is still in the county. And I don't know if that's updated, if the map's incorrect, or if that's how it really is. I don't know if anybody knows off the top of their head and can give me an idea.
The property's in a lawsuit. That's why it hasn't been annexed.
Okay.
So it has nothing to do with any other reason than there's a lawsuit on that property right now.
All right. And it just seems to suggest maybe that it was in the county because it was hard to operate heavy equipment and big trucks, and so to comply with the city rules. And so I thought maybe that there was a possibility that that was the reason why it was still in the county. Because I couldn't figure out why would you build the public works building and still have it in the county. So I just feel that, if this comes to the council, if they would further examine it and just give us a fair shake, just realize that there's other stakeholders that this is going to affect. And I'm just a little guy, but I've talked to plenty of farmers. I have a really good friend, Jeff Hill, Jim Hill, just on Washington Boulevard, and they're against it as well. But we really got the letter just a couple days ago, so we never had any time to organize and to, officially protest it and to bring people here. So it seems like this is going to go fairly fast from what I've read. One other thing that I realized, as I'm a tax auditor, and part of my job is to look at sales tax and municipal energy tax. So by enacting this and enforcing those islands to become incorporated into the city, that brings on a whole nother tax that some of these businesses never had before. And it's the municipal energy, and that's at 6%. So that's like a whole tax increase that these islands weren't expecting, which probably doesn't affect North Ogden City a whole lot, but on a higher level, that definitely affects the county. especially when you start to look at like why some of these islands exist, especially with some of these big manufacturers, Kimberly-Clark. I know from experience that definitely adds $100,000 plus, sometimes a year, to their tax bill. And right now, they currently don't have to pay it because they are incorporated. Well, they're in the county and haven't been incorporated. And so there's larger stakeholders out there other than me. And unless you have any questions, that's really it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'll give a little information to you from the city so you can know. The county is who initiated this process. That's why you've only heard from Weber County. They'd asked the cities who were interested in conducting annexations. We had not provided an answer, but they decided to go ahead and make the recommendation on all islands that they feel should be annexed into cities. So if Weber County recommends the annexation, that doesn't annex you. It would then come to the city council here, and if the council chooses to even move forward in the first place, then there'll be another hearing, like you mentioned, that you would be invited to, a lot of discussion before the council would vote on that. So it's not impending by any means. The county has islands all over this county. It's not common in most other areas to have the number of islands that exist in Weber County. Frankly, maybe not from your particular perspective, but from a lot of perspectives, it's not good for governance because technically if a house in the county has a emergency, they're not paying taxes into Northview Fire District. They're not paying taxes to North Ogden PD. Our officers don't have jurisdiction for something going on in that house. Additionally, the distribution of services is a question because all of these islands are serviced by city roads, but those who live in them clearly use the roads every day, but they're not paying taxes like their next door neighbors who are annexed to help pay for those city services. They're not paying taxes for the parks, which they use. They're not paying taxes for a lot of the things that the city provides. Snowplow. Whatever road is adjacent to any property, county taxes do not pay for that. North Ogden City taxes pay for it. So we have tried to go to the county and get money from them, from your county taxes, to pay for the services that county residents in the boundaries of North Ogden use. They've not been eager to pay for that, understandably so. So they've looked at this option of trying to eliminate or reduce the number of islands. So that's just so you know where it came from. It's not to take anyone's freedom or rights. It's really a matter of making sure that those who use services, I mean, government has to be funded. We wish we could do it without taxes, but obviously that's the tool we have. So to try and ensure that everyone who's using services is paying for them. So that's where it was born out of. I don't know your particular property. I can't answer anything specifically about it, but that's at least kind of how it got started, why, and what the next steps will be. So the county, I believe next week, was that the date from your notice?
So Saturday, actually.
They're going to review it. I won't speak for the county. I don't know if they're going to make a decision that day or if, they're going to take it under advisement. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are not supportive of it. So the county will review it. At some point, they will make a recommendation, perhaps as early as next week, or perhaps, they'll delay it. And I assume they'll take some properties out of consideration based on feedback. That will be 100% done by the county. The city's not involved at all at this point. Once they provide a list of recommended properties to be annexed, it'll come to the city, and the city council here will decide which, if any of those, the city will pursue annexation of. So that kind of just, lets you know what the process will look like as well. And it is a new process, as you said, in this past year that was passed.
Yeah. And I do pay my taxes. I mean, my house sits on part of my ground, so it seems like
right. You have two pieces, so understandably,
pieces,
you're
and
in
the
a
back
different
part
case.
is very small. However, I do have some horses that I keep back there and other animals, and it just is easier to do business with the family small business that we have.
I understand, and I think you'll find if it comes to the point your property was considered to be acted on, that the council would be very reasonable people listening to your concerns. I hope you know that. It's
Sure.
by no means, just going to be a ramrod thing. So if it even came to that point, which I don't know that it will, the council would listen to all of the concerns you have raised.
And that's what I'm concerned with, is it would be, from my point of view, it looks like it's a ramrod thing. It's like we just get this letter in the mail, and then I read up on it, and it's like they didn't even need to send us a letter. They could have just basically done it and forced us into it. And so,
Yeah, the timeline, I wish it had been different, but it's totally, the county's timeline and procedure is totally out of our control. So, I mean, we probably have a lot of agreement with you that it was too fast, but that's how they did it. So if it comes to us, it'll be with more time. You can be assured of that as well.
okay. Thank you, council.
Mayor, doesn't a typical annexing by the time you do the announcement with the public hearing and everything, it's like a 3-month process, isn't it typically? Even if we're annexing, even if someone comes and says, hey, we want to annex, it still takes about 3 months. So there's going to be some time there, you know. And I don't know exactly where your property is. I know by the address kind of where you're at and stuff. So, but
it's top 2,600. So one question I did have is the fees that are associated with that. I heard it could be $2,000 to become annexed into the city, and that just doesn't feel fair to me either.
Normally, there's a fee. If we do any annexations, if the city forces any, I think the council's intent from past discussions would be that there would not be the fee to the homeowner, which is one thing that may be advantageous to certain residents in the county who just haven't annexed because there's a fee. So, but that is something too, was one of our major questions to the county, why we weren't ready to move forward with any kind of annexations, because that's not been resolved of who's paying for it. Again, you know, we raised that concern with the county. They decided they would still go ahead and make their recommendation. So for sure, before anything is done in this city, we will have certain answers on the cost,
Okay.
which we don't have right now. So this is the first time this has ever happened. I mean, that's partially why there's a lot of questions as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Leonard Looney, 2527 North, 525 East in North Ogden, of course. I just have a question about the area that's going to become a parking lot around the senior center. We kind of fixed my part of it, but there's some other people backing up to that, and there's a trench that's been dug, I assume, for a footing wall, and there's still water and all these things. So I mean, I realize that there are a lot of questions, and I realize that people have been working hard on it. But I'm just curious to know, and some of those three people are curious to know what the timeline is, what the process is going to be before they have a fence, because I believe that it's already been agreed that there will be a fence there, but wondering when. And
Hopefully
that's my question.
soon is the answer.
Well, and I realize you can't tell me June 10th or something like that. If you just said June 10th, I'd say which year. But is it imminent?
It is. The council had approved when we purchased that property that we would split a fence with the owner of the homes that you're talking about, or the developer of those homes. And so that much was agreed to. The question we're working on now is if it will include a little concrete retaining wall similar to what you've done there on the east side of the property, and how will that cost distribution be borne? So that's what we're trying to work out now. And as soon as that's resolved, I would expect the construction of the fence to begin within the next month or two. So,
Do you okay, within a month or two, you think?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
June 12th.
There you go.
2029.
Yeah, which year?
So
Thanks, Phil.
I think it will be very soon. We're just resolving that.
No, I understand there have been a ton of issues, and I didn't want to make it sound like I was demanding anything. I know they've come to me and said, what's going to happen here, and when is it going to happen? And so I thought the best place was to come and ask you.
There you go.
we go.
You got it right there.
On you said June 12th?
Good authority.
I didn't say that.
Councilman Turner for June 12th, Mayor Taylor for within the next month or two. So,
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time and for all that you do.
thank you, Mr. Looney.
Where's your wife? We would rather look at her. Just putting that out there.
Sue broke one foot and sprained the other,
Oh my goodness.
and this was 2.5 months ago. And so she's not real mobile yet, but she's starting to be. So perhaps next time I'll have her
Tell her
with
we
me.
miss her.
I will tell her that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Looney. Okay.
Hello, Council. My name is Penny Dean, and I live at 889 East, 2750 North. I am here for a couple of reasons. The first one, I'd like to ask about the skate park, if you guys have determined a place for that, if it's going to go back in.
It is going to go to North Ogden Park,
Okay.
just west of the elementary school and the playground there. If you know where the playground
Yes.
is, that's where it's already under construction,
Okay.
actually. So
Awesome. Great.
that'll be the
Happy to
new
hear
home.
about that. My boys put a lot of time and effort into getting that park
Okay.
back here to begin with when it first started. My second question is, we're all familiar with Rice Creek subdivision?
I am, but maybe just describe the cross streets for others who might not know.
850, let's see, 850 East?
This is
850
the
East.
Chatlin, the old Chatlin property.
Correct. It's the one right behind my house.
Correct.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, I am here for a couple of reasons. So I've lived there in my home on 2750 for 17 years. Very, very quiet neighborhood. Very lovely Sunday afternoons with very, very little noise. Since February, that has all changed. February 28th, they broke ground. Lots of noise, nonstop from 7 a.m., was earlier a few days, till dark and sometimes a little later. So now there's been an approval for a home to go back there now, and the man has started building. Now, granted, I'd like you to take into consideration that my husband works swing shift and graveyard shift. Okay, his rotations alternate from swings to graves. So during this 3-month span of the construction back there, very little sleep, averaging about 5 hours a night. The city ordinance I have in my hand here, which is the North Ogden City Ordinance, and you can pull it up, construction equipment and activity in North Ogden City, states that there shall be no activity or construction in new construction zones on Sundays. Okay? Mm-hmm. Since the new people bought the property back there and started building, pretty regular just about every Sunday. Me and the new resident had some words the other day. My question is with this ordinance standing, am I going to have to go through this with every new person that builds back there? Am I going to have to give up my one peaceful Sunday with maybe a couple of mowers running in the morning to noise and fighting with the neighbor, each new neighbor that comes in about the new build and about working on Sundays? Because I really don't want to make enemies out of every new neighbor that's going in behind me. It's bad enough that my serenity from my backyard is gone now.
Well, Ms. Dean, you are in the right. There should not be construction work on Sunday. Mm-hmm. We do not, to be honest, have our inspectors out generally on Sunday, so we will usually not 99% of the time know that's happening, but our city attorney here is going to get you the contact information so you don't have to talk to the neighbors.
I have been through this already. I've been to the planning commission. I've called the planning commission. I
was going to tell you to call the police because they're the ones on Sunday who can come and shut down construction.
Yep. Okay, but isn't that going to make worse of a bitter neighbor towards me by calling the police?
We will talk to the developer as well, but I'm just giving you an
Okay,
a solution you could use on a Sunday.
And I've been given the solution, and I don't think that is a proper approach. I don't think I should have to call the police on a brand new neighbor moving in to stop the construction. I think it can be stopped.
We don't know if someone's working on
I
a
know,
Sunday,
but
though.
if you guys add a clause to the building permit stating that this ordinance here on the clause for the building permit in a residential zone on a Sunday, I won't have to go through this again with any new neighbor going back there. If you can just put it on the piece of paper or attach a piece of paper to the application. Every new homeowner that goes back there is going to have to put in an application to build back there. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and the construction companies,
Will they vary, or will it be the same construction company for every home?
if the lot, I don't know, if the lots are sold individually, it could be.
Those
different.
lots are individual. Those
Okay,
lots are
so
not.
everyone will select their own builder.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then is there something that we can do about it on the application level so that I don't have to go through this? Like I said, Sunday is the only day that we get to sleep in, that we actually get that extra hours of sleep on Sunday without the noise. Every morning it's beep, 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 boom, 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 boom.
Totally
You're familiar
understand,
with
yeah.
this noise?
So we will look at that, but I just want you to at least know whether you choose to do it or not. I mean, you have a right to have that stopped without necessarily inserting yourself. The person who responds doesn't have to say, this house here called. So just know that we are happy to respond on a Sunday and do that, but as we don't have building inspectors, planning commissions out on that day, it
And
would
that
be
is
the
why I'm
police
here.
who would do
Is
that.
to try to put an end to it before it gets started on Sundays. And surely there's something you can do. I'm sure I'm not the only person that lives in North Ogden that is on a new subdivision site, because you are building everywhere.
Yeah. No, thank you for that idea. We'll definitely look into that. I just also wanted you to know there's another option as well. So, thank you, and we'll do that. Councilman Turner, how is that common in most communities and have not on Sunday, or is that unusual in your experience?
On a lot of cities will have. They'll have clauses, and they usually give. I know Salt Lake, they give you when you get your permit, they give you criteria, and then if you have to work outside of those hours, you have to come in and do a
Permit process or something?
Yeah, get permission to do that and stuff. But typically they have it's usually after the permit's been approved. They just say, these are the conditions of working in this subdivision or in this area. Every city has noise ordinances, everyone.
And that's what this is, an ordinance for no construction.
So,
construction zone on
and-
Sundays.
And I'll, and every building, it seems like that, and it's commercial, so it's a lot different. Residential's a lot different, but we usually always try to get variances on certain aspects of the project. Like if we have big concrete pour, it shouldn't be happening with the residential, though. I can't imagine why. So.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Satterthwaite.
I know of one other property where they're doing Sunday construction, and knowing that it is happening in this location and another, we could send Andra out during the week and just have her talk to them and inform them.
That's probably good. That'd be good too to have. Part of the challenge too is we may tell the developer may get that, and then they hire a framing company or something like that, and the framing company doesn't know. I mean, they just don't know. They're hired. We'll pay you to build this house, and they have no idea what the ordinances are. And so, but if somebody went by and told them, like you said, Audra said, "Hey, come by," and said, you guys can't work on these days.
And hopefully she gets to the general contractor so he can tell them.
Okay, anyone else this evening like to share anything with City Council? Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda. Council, this is a proposal to consider some wireless towers in some of our city parks, 3 of our parks. And our city administrator and attorney, John Call, will be the presenter on this item.
So, council, we do have a representative from Verizon here who can answer all of your questions if you have any, but I will try and tell you what I know. What we're talking about in the parks are small antennas. If you can see, this is the size of antenna they're talking about putting on top of a pole or a street light. This is right now. This is a picture of our current Bicentennial Park, the duck pond. The duck pond's down here. This is Pleasant View Drive coming along. So the idea, the whole purpose of these type of antennas is that they're unobtrusive, but they help provide the consistency and the radio, I don't know, repeaterness or something to make the system work right.
That's an attorney word.
Repeaterness, yeah.
It's not an engineer's word.
So, they've approached the city and said, hey, we've got a few sites around the city that we would like to install these smaller antennas in to give some increased service to the folks in your community who are on Verizon. One of them, let me just pull up. One of them is over at the Aquatic Center. One's at the Northview Senior Center behind us, and then the other one would be at the Bicentennial Park, which is the one you see here. I can scroll down and you can see some of the other.
So these are current ones, or these are new ones? These three are new ones.
These are new. What they've done is they've just taken a picture of our facility and then added the antenna to it. So see, this is that's Smith's back there. This is a light pole that's in the parking lot of the Northview Senior Center, and then they've just added this little antenna on top so that you can see how obtrusive or unobtrusive it would be. Same thing for the Aquatic Center. Here it again, it's just right on the top of this pole that's right next to the building. We haven't got a contract. We haven't started negotiations. We wanted to make sure the council was okay with it. From a parks perspective, it won't affect our parks in any way. As far as it's not going to interfere with what's going on. And we think that this is the type of facility that it's good to put in some public property, because it allows for an enhancement to the community as a whole, as well as, in all honesty, provides a little compensation to the city for the inconvenience. And with these small antennas, I'm not sure there's much inconvenience from our perspective. They'll all be maintained by the Verizon company. They won't interfere with our lights. And so from staff, I don't know of any concerns that's been brought up by parks or anybody about this type of activity. But that doesn't mean that you wouldn't have concerns that maybe we can help resolve if you have questions. So,
Where's the nearest tower right now?
And can you just give us your name and company, please, to start?
So my name is Daniel Thurgood. I work with Technology Associates. We are representing Verizon on these projects. We're located in Murray at 5710 South Green Street. The nearest tower that Verizon has to this area is over close to I-15. That's what we've got in North Ogden City. And so this is an area where we want to improve the coverage and in particular the capacity of the network when you have rush hour coming down the street, or you have a large group of people at the Aquatic Center or in the shopping center over here. You start to lose your service that you expect from a cell phone. And so it may show that you have 4 bars of service or 3 bars, but you're not going to get that type of service with the number of people, especially with how far the nearest tower is. And we actually would like to place a tower on one of the city park properties up along the base of the mountain, but that's at some future date once those projects up there get figured out.
What's the range of these towers?
So these ones only go between 500 and 1,000 feet. They're not very big.
Okay.
So it's essentially like turning on a lamp in your house. It's not going to fill your whole room with light. It's just going to fill a particular area. And so that's why we've located them in these highly congested areas with the school, the Aquatic Center, New Smith's right here, as well as over here.
Okay.
Councilman Turner, and then Councilman
A
Satterthwaite.
couple quick questions. How do they attach to our poles?
So we would replace the entire pole with one that looks exactly like what you have. We'd have the same finish. Typically, we order it from the same manufacturer if you still have that information, and then we replace the light. The power system remains the same. You retain ownership of the pole. It just now has a conduit inside of the pole and a mount on top of it for the antenna.
So if the pole gets damaged, it's our responsibility to replace the pole.
It depends on
Damage,
who,
like let's say it gets hit by a car or something like that.
Yeah, at that time, it's in the contract typically with the city and Verizon as who would be responsible if the pole were just to fall over, or if there's an engineering defect, then
That'd be
Verizon
on
was
you
the one
guys.
that installed
Right.
it,
Okay.
and so it would fall on them. But if a resident were to hit the pole,
Be different.
it would be the resident that would end up paying for it, and most likely Verizon contractor would go through, repair it, because it does have the Verizon antenna on it.
Okay, and so we just went and changed everything out to LED. I don't know, John and Mayor, if you guys know if these poles, the manufacturer makes them with LEDs and stuff, or do you know? Or can they be adopted, or do you know any of that?
John, do you have any information?
I don't have any information other than they would essentially it'd look the same, so we could take the existing bulb that's in our light and put it in the new light. So all they have to do is essentially weld a mast for the antenna to attach to on top of the existing, not our existing pole, but one that looks just like it.
Okay.
So
And Verizon will be responsible for all of that. There wouldn't be any cost to the city to transform that light into something that can hold an antenna.
Okay.
So how high up do we want this antenna to be?
So the top of the antenna, we typically want to have 25 feet. The street light in Bicentennial Park isn't quite that tall, so that would be a little bit taller, but we could put the lights off to the side and keep it the same height. The light over here at the senior center, that is plenty tall for what we're looking for. And then at the aquatic center, that light is maybe 10 feet, 15 feet, and so we would be extending that. But it's a unique light. It's the only one in the parking lot or in the entire area that is that short. All the other ones are about 25 feet.
And so is the antenna and electronics totally self-contained? You don't have to go, take the information this antenna sees into a network from there, or does it just repeat?
No, so we will bring a fiber optic line from the street to a ground cabinet. And so we would have to work with parks to see where that cabinet could be placed to operate the antenna. They can be placed up to 600 feet away from the antenna, so we can find a place that's out of the way, completely unseen. The other option too is we can place the equipment at the base of the light pole and cover it in a decorative shroud. So right now you see the concrete base, whereas we would put the foundation lower in the ground, make it a little bit wider, and everything would be enclosed in the base of the light.
So if we had a tower in any one of these locations that was 100 feet high, could you put a repeater on that antenna and not have to do the other two?
No. So we thought about going over on placing our equipment on this tower, but the topography of North Ogden, it's too high for all the other towers in the area, where if we put a full-size site right here, it would cause interference with other sites that already exist. And so that's why we're looking at this option, because they're much lower, they don't broadcast as far, and won't interfere with the existing network. With the new technology, interference is a big issue that we look at. So the new, spectrum that we have, or the licenses, it's a little different than what it was 10, 15 years ago.
So I wonder if we could anticipate that other cell phone providers would want to do the same thing, and if that was true, I'd want to consolidate and put more antennas on a tower. Your frequencies are unique. You don't
Right.
share frequencies, and the bandwidths are narrow enough. You're not going to clobber the other guys.
Right. So I'm not aware of what the other carriers are doing in Utah. I know there are some companies out there that are doing things similar to this. But for right now, Verizon is making a large push for these small cell installations to help with particular areas. And so if AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint were interested in doing the same thing, they would most likely approach you and place an antenna on top of another light next door or its own unique pole. But for right now, Verizon, this is what they're pushing towards, especially because we can't get the full-size site up along the east bench.
And if you had the full-size side up on the bench and it was high enough,
So we actually don't want it too high. A tower up there, we would only want about 50 feet, and that's if it were located near the power substation. So we just want it to barely see up over the hill and to look down into the city. Even then, it's far enough away, we would probably still want these sites.
I guess I'm thinking maybe we ought to give it some do some study of if I can just see if we have 4 or 5 cell phone providers, then we're going to have lots of poles, and maybe it's worth thinking about consolidating them in some way. So I'd like to pull somebody in, somebody like Jim had us looking at. I don't know whether they're a consulting group, somebody that knows about towers that was going to do a study of our tower up there. Somebody like that. Maybe we could take a look at it and do it in an expeditious way so there's not too much of a delay here. But
We can research that while we're working with Verizon at the same time. Just see if there's other likelihood of this happening. Obviously, this is the first company that has approached us about it for this kind of technology or infrastructure. So we'll do some research on that, Council, simultaneous to this discussion.
and maybe it was obvious in the discussion that I shared there, but it's not just the antenna on the tower. You got to have a box somewhere. You got to have some way to get the fiber optic line, and you got to tie into your
Right, and that
everybody will have to do a similar thing.
correct. Everyone would have to have their own equipment cabinet that houses their specific equipment for that antenna.
And will you be tying into an existing line in the road? So like you'll be tying onto CenturyLink's fiber optic line that's already out there, or
So we put it out to bid. If CenturyLink were the one to win that bid, then we would tie into theirs. If it were a company that may not even be in North Ogden, then that company would have to come approach you, get a franchise agreement, bring in a new fiber line, and do all of that. We leave all that work up to them. We are responsible for just providing the conduit from the tower to the right-of-way.
And would you anticipate that'd be the same for other providers as well, that they would piggyback on an existing line, or essentially the infrastructure in the right of way would be shared?
Yes.
It's just the antennas that would be proprietary.
Correct. We are it's called demarcation point, but essentially the service provider has their wireless router in our equipment cabinet. They provide the service up to that point. From there, it then hooks into our equipment.
Councilman Turner.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's a Verizon commercial in case you. Anyway, John, you didn't explain this much. The back page that I remember, how much it's going to cost, how much they're going to pay us, and I just have a couple questions on that real quick. Soil testing. Who's supposed to be doing that? It says soil testing must be performed for foundation engineering. Who's doing that? And or do we even know yet? And
Verizon.
You will do that?
Yes.
You'll pay a soils engineer?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because they have to make sure that their tower isn't going to fall over, and so like it says down here, there'll be no cost to North Ogden City.
Yeah, but that no cost always ends up costing. Just throwing that out there. So is it $3,000 per each location every year? Is
Yes.
that what that's why I'm reading this, right?
Yes.
So it'd be $9,000, right?
Yep.
Is that where would that money go?
special projects. No,
I mean,
I'm
is
just
that- I
kidding.
mean, would we
go
put it
where
under-
you allocate it?
Greenhouse.
So, I mean,
about the kids.
the council would decide where it goes.
Okay.
Typically, what Evan likes to do is keep money that's coming into an asset in that asset. So, if it's tied to real property, it should go back to buildings or expenses or things like that to upkeep our physical infrastructure. I mean, that's the way he would prefer if he was keeping assets with benefits, but that doesn't mean the council can't decide that we want to use them to put towards Barker Park, or of course that's a public real facility that money could go to. So what you wouldn't probably want to do is put it towards salaries, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, and then a 5-year term, are we good with that? Is that something that Verizon typically does 5 years? Is that why that's in there, or what? I mean,
So typically we
just
do
curious.
it, yeah, 5-year terms. So it's an initial 5-year term with 4 additional 5-year terms that automatically renew, and that's just how the leases have been set up. I don't necessarily know why.
So what if technology changes and stuff, and these you don't need these antennas anymore because now we have clap phones or something like that? I don't know, but they don't need them. Will the poles, you guys replace the poles back, or what?
So that could be in the contract. We hope to construct these poles in a way that if we were to remove the antenna, you wouldn't be able to tell that there was an antenna there to begin with.
You put large speakers and play music.
And we're still going to arm wrestle a little on the terms because we
Okay.
have a lot of new SCADA systems in our parks that need to transmit data to turn the sprinklers on and off. They don't use a lot of data, but we're going to ask Verizon if maybe they could help us with that as part of this. Because those SCADA sprinkler systems are going in all the parks. They only will get used, a couple times a month if it's raining and they need to be turned off. So anyways, we'll talk about
Are you
that.
looking for an antenna to be placed on
No,
the
just
tower?
like some accounts or something that data could get sent
We're
on.
putting in SIM cards into these
Oh, okay.
receivers, and so it would be tied to a phone number, but it would
Right.
get used 5 times a month. And
Right. Yeah, I can give you the contact information for the government account, I guess.
So we think it will be good for everyone.
I do too.
I don't have necessarily an issue with that. So before we, what do you want from us? It says discussion to consider. So
Just
guess-
final approval, whatever John and I come up with will be. No, I'm just kidding.
be acceptable. So you'll
Okay,
you'll
hold
come
on
back
a
with a
That
lease.
you're
and
okay
everything?
with it. We'll bring an agreement back. Also, the research councilman Satterthwaite has asked for, and we just wanted to make sure you're good with it before we work it all out.
Right. So Verizon, what we typically do if a property owner is interested in receiving a full proposal, they just say, yes, please move forward. We're interested. Verizon will do survey work, title work, get a site plan put together, do the soil testing, either before or after a lease agreement is put in place. Depends on that. That's up to you if you want to have that done. But we'll do all the work up front, and then essentially we bring you a full site plan. We negotiate an agreement, and then it gets presented to the council. And then if something needs to be changed, worked out differently, we can then work on that. And so all the upfront cost is from Verizon, and all the risk is taken by Verizon. We just want to know if this is something that you're interested in, and you'd allow us to survey the property and bring an actual proposal to you.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Okay, any further discussion or items you'd like us to research or work on or include in the discussions?
We could go another 45 minutes or so on this.
No, we can't.
Somehow we got to get to 11 o'clock tonight.
Okay,
All right.
thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
So sounds like we've got good support to move forward.
Yep. So it'll be another couple months, but I'll be back in touch.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Thanks for coming. Very helpful. Okay, we'll move to item 2, council, which
You know where he's at? He's out of town?
here's some copies of what we'll be going over. John, can you pull the one with 10 up first, please? Did I send you that one?
I think this is the only picture I got.
Okay.
Is
Was it in your
Facebook.
okay? Maybe.
Okay, council, this is just a brief information item and to get your thumbs up that, you know, this, you have no major concerns with what we're proposing here. So as you know, we have a number of new streetlights going in on Washington Boulevard, 33 new streetlights. And we've developed some plans for some banners on these streetlights. That's what you see up here and coming up. We put out, and I'll just show this while John's getting the picture up there, but we had asked for art from the community, from photographers and artists in the community last year for our beautification program, and that's where all of these images came from. Some were taken also by our staff, largely by Tiffany Staley, who took a number of these photographs. And we had put out a survey of 10 banner options to get some feedback from the community. Had over 400 banners voted for. Of the 10, and you can kind of see the 10 banners here. Thank you, John, pulled those up for us.
Yeah.
I'll just cover quickly what the results were. There were 460 votes cast. The top 2 vote getters of these original 10. And Annette, can you maybe turn that light off just so we can see these a little better here? Oh, thank you, Mrs. Clemens. So there were 10 banners, ideas, and the top vote getter was number 8, this beautiful picture here of flags on Washington Boulevard. The second highest vote getter, and that was taken by Jolene Porter, second highest was this really beautiful picture taken by a drone by John Stinnett over North Ogden City of a picture of a rainbow. That was from last year. Those both had over 100 votes, including 167 for number 8. So those were the highest vote getters. After that, some of the other popular choices were number 7, got a lot of votes from folks who felt that this writing, "The community starts here," just made the signs too busy with writing and a picture. So some of our residents said they liked this one because it was easier to read and just less busy, not having a photograph as well. And then a lot like this image close-up of some flowers, as well as this image here of Bicentennial Park, the bridge right over the park there. So that's just a little of the feedback that we'd gotten. And from that feedback, we then produced a second sheet of 6 kind of finalist options, and that's what we have to show you here. We took the Community Starts Here off entirely based on a lot of the feedback that we had to just clean up the image, make it less busy. And then also we put an outline around the logo just to make that stand out a little bit so you can kind of see that logo a little bit better. And we have these 5 final images that were in the original, as well as a submission that was added that's really spectacular view of Mount Ben Lomond. So those are our 6 final banners. We'd like to go ahead and use these. We'll probably do some of each on this first batch of banners. Most of the poles are going to have our Military Boulevard of Heroes banners on them. There are going to be 20 of those, so really we're going to be doing 13 banners, and we'd like to use these and wanted to just show those to you, council, see if you have any feedback or concerns, or if these look acceptable to you. Councilman Swanson.
On number 1, I think the North Ogden City logo needs to be covering the houses at the bottom instead of the mountains at the top.
Okay.
If we're going to block the view of something, I'd rather it block.
And you can, actually on the previous one, it was that way, so
Just
you can
without
kind
the-
of see how it looks. And I think, I agree, it does look better than blocking the mountains.
And for me, I think number 11, the new one, is North Ogden City. Cherries in blossom with Ben Lomond and snow behind it. That is North Ogden. I mean, you look at that and you just kind of go, that's it. That's where we live.
Yeah,
That's
it's
us.
really spectacular.
That is us.
That's from Jolene Porter as well.
Yeah.
Very talented
Fabulous
photographer from the city.
Yep.
few years do we have snow on Ben Lomond on July when the cherries are out.
Right.
There's no more cherries.
Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, also, actually, really quick, John, can you pull up that presentation? I wanted to show you, we've been working as well as part of our beautification on a number of utility box art. So just wanted to run through these that we're proposing to put up also within the next month or so. Trying to do some images that have a lot of color, but that are fairly simple as well, so people aren't staring at them driving by, but just add a little color and beauty on the boulevard as you drive by. So we have this image here proposed of the pool, the lazy river in the pool. Next, this is
Image of that cup in front of the pool was very realistic.
so. Then one of the mountain and another box. Next, this one's really fantastic. A very beautiful picture here of the mountain as well. There in springtime. So that would be in front of the Smith's gas station. Next. This picture is from Tiffany. Again, it's of the fireworks show. Really pretty, has very beautiful colors. Would be on one of the large boxes there on Washington. Next. Then this is the same picture we've been talking about before, put on one of the wide boxes to really take advantage of that view. And then lastly, this is kind of a short but wide box that we think would be ideal to put this image of Mount Ben Lomond and the peach blossoms in this case as well.
So I just, on these boxes, we just want to make sure we don't put them where we're widening right now. Yeah, I mean, do we want to spend the money on these if we're going to be taking them out and widening? You know what I mean?
These are
I don't know if any of
all
these are there. They're all south of that.
2600. Yes, agreed. So these are in the area that won't be affected. Okay, can we have the lights back on, please? So, council, any feedback or concerns on these, or do they look acceptable to you for our banners and utility box art?
Acceptable to me.
Yes.
Yes.
You need a motion or anything on that, or just?
No, I mean, we just wanted to make sure we've run them past the
Are
council.
the
and-
banners printed on both sides?
Yes.
Okay.
So the ratio of, height to width is about the same as what it'll be on the banners.
Yes. The banners will be about, I believe, 2.5 feet by 5 feet wide, approximately.
Other way, 5 feet tall.
Or 5 feet tall, yes, I'm sorry, and 2.5 feet wide.
What's the time frame on these? By the 4th, or not? I mean, I know that's only a month away.
We're
Less than a month.
they should be done, I would expect all of the things we've talked about by the end of June.
Cool.
So it'd be nice to have for July 4th. Councilwoman Stover.
On the banners with number 11 versus the one that you showed of the peach blossoms with the Ben Lomond in the background. I almost like that better for a banner than this one. I think it was more eye-catching or nicer. And we don't really have a lot of cherries anymore in the city orchards.
So can we go back and look at that one again?
Yeah, John, can you pull that one, the last one of the presentation back up?
I think that's a peach orchard there.
Yeah.
It is
we
a
have
peach
more
orchard.
That's why I said it's peaches more than
So
cherries.
what I would maybe recommend is that we take this one and shrink it down to the same size, because when it's,
Yeah,
And we'll look side by side.
yeah.
okay,
We'll send them out.
thank you.
Because it's has a little bit more snow and some clouds to really make that one nice as well. So we'll get an 11B with this other picture. Okay, any other feedback?
Looks good.
Well, just Rocky Mountain Power's letting you put these on theirs. Or is it by our request? We want to do this one, this one, this one. Because I mean, I was walking around 2600 the other day, and there's one on 2600. It's on somebody's property. If they wanted a banner, or a cover on that, could they contact the city and we put one on there, or how would that work? You know, you understand my thought?
Yes. What has been worked out with Rocky Mountain Power is that the city would do them basically on Washington Boulevard. We hadn't talked about neighborhoods and things. It may be possible. It did take about 2 years of negotiations to get them to say yes. They've not allowed any other city in Utah to do this. In fact, they can only think of like one other in the corporation anywhere in America that has done on their boxes. So it was definitely took, time. So, but all we've asked for is on Washington Boulevard in the commercial area, or the brief piece of 2700 that's in the commercial district.
Okay, just curious.
And then the memorandum of understanding we signed with them was that we would maintain them. So I don't know if a yard could go or not under that.
Are these like a carbon fiber type, or are they just vinyl?
They're vinyl, UV rated and graffiti resistant vinyl. So they've held up well. The others that we've had on the 6 traffic control boxes are in great shape.
Well, I think it's South Salt Lake has them.
Mm-hmm. South Salt Lake's the other city in Utah that does.
They have some crazy art stuff on them.
It's very modern art.
Yeah.
Or
crazy art. You can say it modern.
Yeah, modern art. We've gone with, we tried to stick to the nature themes or something of the city that's not an expression of an artist, basically, like a kind of painting or something, but more natural scenes, vistas, that kind of stuff, just to keep it more classic. Councilman Swanson?
I just sent you one to your Facebook page.
Okay.
That I took of Barker Park with Ben Lomond in the background. Maybe an 11C.
Okay. Awesome. And we'll also be I have started the discussions with UDOT to do the next phase of the lights, which is in the budget, to 2000 North in this summer. So hopefully that will happen, and we'll have another whole set of lights as well to include in the program. And we have a lot of boxes up and down Washington Boulevard. Okay, anything else on this one? Okay, thank you then, Council. We'll go to item 3, our last item, which is, I don't have my paper agenda today.
This is Meridian.
Oh, that's right, Meridian. So,
It's 4.
oh, okay, item 4. We have a need, Council, as you know, to widen Washington Boulevard and 2600 North. The project widening 2600 North will take place west of us here, starting at 475 East, just immediately west of the library to Washington Boulevard. We've obtained the funds from the Weber County Right-of-Way Fund to purchase the necessary properties, and the city is contributing as well, I should say, $500,000 towards these purchases. So as part of that, we need to hire an engineering firm to do the survey work, and John has taken a public process, an RFP out to bid, and has a recommendation for us here tonight. So, John.
So the interviews we had 3 surveyors apply for this project, and then one ended up pulling out because they shut down their surveying group in Utah. So we ended up with only 2. One of them is Meridian Engineering, who has done a bunch of work for the city, and then the other group was someone who we haven't worked with before, but they were also a very competent group. Matt and I did the interviews, and then we decided that Meridian was probably the better option. Meridian's contract was a not-to-exceed bid, and the other contractor did an estimate. And Meridian had about 100 more hours projected in their estimate than the other group did. And so we figured that the hours were going to be more what Meridian was saying than what the other group was. And so it would have flopped the bids and made the other group more expensive. So we felt that Meridian was the better choice. Plus, they do a lot of right-of-way surveying and acquisition packets, and that's what they're doing for us. And so we've been real happy with them in the past, and just felt like it would be a good fit again. As you saw in your packets, you got kind of the redlined version of the agreement, so that you could see that basically the first page changes because the project's changing, and then as you go down through the agreement, it's the exact same agreement that we've done in the past, with obviously the exception being, let me pull it up on this other document, is the scope of services, which is Exhibit A, and that's down here. Rotate it so you can see. Let's see. Guess it won't let me rotate it. Let me go back here. Sorry. But the total cost for services under this version. It's set right now in this contract at $51,000. We had talked to them about taking out one of these lines. The way they had proposed it was to survey the south side of the street and the north side of the street, because there might be some discrepancies on the north side of the street. We're not planning on buying any property over there, and so there's not a requirement that we fix it. And so we thought to save $10,000, we might just not survey that now. If the council would like, we can leave that in. I don't think we're going to buy any property over there. It's just a matter of, like, there's some places where the sidewalk is on private property where the city has an easement, and we don't know the exact scope of where the sidewalk is in relation to everything else. So if you wanted to clean it up right now, it would cost $10,000 and $10,500. If you don't, we can take it off and do it at a later date. So right now, Matt and I are just recommending we do the south side and not worry about the north side, but I wanted to present the council with the option. And Meridian's fine with us taking off the north side work. So, do you have any questions or anything I can answer?
I'm okay with your recommendation to take it off.
So my
Ditto.
Okay.
If we ever need it, we could get it, but we don't see that
And
need.
this comes out of the right-of-way money, right?
It'll come out of the right of way money or our match, but it comes out of that pool. It's not extra money the city has to come up with.
And just to clarify or provide information, we've obtained $1,050,000 in grants for the right of way, and then the city's match is $500,000. So $2 of every $3 is the grant.
Do we have an agreement number?
A12-2017.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve agreement A12-2017
Second. Oh, sorry.
You're good, man.
to enter into an agreement with Meridian Engineering for surveying and right-of-way design services for 2600 North Street widening, as discussed. Go, Cheryl.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this agreement with Meridian Engineering for 2600 North right of way. Is there any further discussion?
Who seconded that?
Twice.
We'll start the voting with Councilwoman Stoker,
Yes.
Councilman Satterthwaite,
Yes.
Councilman Swanson,
Yes.
and Councilman Turner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then that passes unanimously. And we are now again at public comments. Ladies, we invite, if you have anything to share with City Council, we'd love to hear from you at this time. Okay, then let's do our staff and council comments. Annette, anything you'd like to share?
I don't know if everyone got the information. We have 3 council member candidates. Julie Anderson, Blake Severine, and
Randy.
Randy
Wynn.
Wynn. And then 1 mayor candidate. And it closes tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Okay, thank you for the update. Anything else? John.
So, council, we have one of the candidates for the Miss North Ogden pageant wants to come to the council and present the idea of doing a lending library out in front of the police station. Now, we've talked about it in the past. She sent some pictures over, so I'm just going to bring them up. I don't think this is necessarily what she's talking about, but this is the size that she's talking about, in the sense that it'll be a larger book place where she's kind of thinking like maybe an 8 foot tall, or 3 shelves, lots of books. She actually participated in a book drive over at Green Acres, and they collected about 1,100 books for the kids there. I mean, so this is something she's been passionate about. She would have been here tonight if she could, but she's in Yellowstone with her family. And so what she's hoping is that she can kind of get a nod from the council that, hey, yes, bring us your design. She wants to do it out in front of the police station, and I think that's a great location. We'll just need to coordinate a little bit with the parks to make sure the sprinklers aren't hitting it, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. I know Tiffany's on board with this idea. We do have some smaller lending libraries that we've had put up in the city around some of our parks and other places, but this would be a much larger scale, and I think having it close to the police station is a great idea because there'll be more supervision, and I think, in fact, it might be good as opposed to putting it on the north end and maybe just put it on the west side, just next to the sidewalk or something where it's not in a shadow that our building causes. I think, not that I think that people will harm it, but just, it'd be nice for people that feel safe going to it no matter the time of day to swap a book out. Oh, and that's also where we have the cameras for the safe exchange zone as well, so.
Any feedback on this, council, or it'll be coming next week likely?
We'll give her the go-ahead and say, hey, the council just wants to see your design before it's approved.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Are you good? We know you're good. Do you like it?
Yeah, I'm all
I
for
thought
the
this was a
idea.
teenage, I didn't think it was the Miss North Ogden. But
It is Miss North Ogden. Her name is Molly Buck. And
Molly's her mother.
Molly is her mother?
I think so.
Oh.
It's in the book. It should be in your Cherry Days book, isn't it?
That's
her
her-
name's Olivia. She used her mom's email address.
Yeah.
So that's why I was, but yeah.
That's
it says,
for the Mrs. North Ogden.
but
I hope they have a lot of picture books.
yeah. And so,
Schematics.
she says it'll be waterproof. And she's talking about 6 feet wide with 3 shelves, so there'd be plenty of room for books. And she's got someone who's already committed to build it for her, who's a carpenter of sorts.
So we're giving her an okay, whatever council needs to do to.
Okay.
Like, bring us a drawing, let's look at it.
Yeah, that's what she's hoping for, is the approval, so she can then do the design work and bring it in, and I think it'll be part of her Miss North Ogden presentation. And then regardless of if she gets elected or selected or not, I think she's still going to move forward based on her passion about books with her working with the elementary schools and such.
And a Doctor Who TARDIS would be great.
Something kind of fun and whimsical, we'll kind of leave it up to her.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, John?
No, other than I've been making a list of all the code changes that we need to come, and so it's a big list, and so hopefully you won't
Sounds
get
like
exhausted.
someone has some summer assignments.
Yes.
Well, just one other thing, John, when are you getting married?
July 14th.
All right.
So,
Just barely a month.
yep,
That's awesome.
about 5 weeks away. So, should be good.
Okay, any other awkward questions we want to ask John about that, or should we move on?
Is she real? Because I
really
remember
feel
this.
She might actually be watching right now, so I should probably be way more enthusiastic. No, she's great, and those of you who've met her know that she's a gem. So,
Okay, that's all?
that's it.
Okay, thanks, John. Let's start at that end today. Councilman Turner.
Just a couple things. First off, Chalk Art, I just sent you, everyone here, a text that was forwarded from the Chalk Art Festival folks for their Facebook page. I don't Facebook. My wife does. She's gone on there. I don't know if you guys Facebook, but go on there. There's a link that you can invite your friends. to the Chalk Art Facebook page, and like I said, I sent you guys the text about it that was sent to us. And the Chalk Art Festival, they're meeting again this Thursday at 6. It's going really well. A lot of enthusiasm. They're doing it's going to be a big deal this year. I think they're going to get the same band that they did last year. And this is no joke. We were this close to getting Imagine Dragons, but they're touring Europe. But Greg Thorpe knows them really fairly well, and so they're going to try to get them for next year. So that'd be kind of cool.
That would draw a few people.
Yeah, they actually said they'd probably have to do it at Weber High.
New venue.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And then the
right.
the other thing too is I thought it was awesome, the pond you get that the city created for Green Acres for their elementary, and I don't know if anybody saw that, but we actually there was a post on Facebook on because it was on Memorial Day weekend and we didn't even go by there on Monday, why we didn't. But there was a post on Facebook saying, "Hey, there's still water in there," and so I come home from work and we took the kids and put the kayaks out and they had a blast. And the water was only about to your knees. I couldn't get in it, but my kids, and what a fantastic idea. And
You were grounding the kayak?
yeah, well, no, I didn't get in it. Thanks, Mayor. but my kids, they had a blast, and I actually think it would be we talked about the community pond and stuff, but if that's something we could do for even in the summer to fill it up, or for Cherry Days, it would just be. It was way cool. I don't know whose idea that was, but what an awesome idea, and it was a great activity. And there was quite a few people. I was surprised how many people were still over there in the water.
And the kids loved it.
Oh,
the elementary school.
Heck yeah.
They had, 1,000 kids there for it.
It was a great idea. So
And Tiffany actually has asked, I know last year she asked if we could do it in the August timeframe, because that basin gets really dry. The sprinklers don't work really great. And she wondered if we could just fill it up just for an activity like that. And it sounds like with the success we had kind of by happenstance,
I'm all
it'd
for
be
it
good
100%.
So we'll definitely be looking at doing it again this year. Because it's just a fun few days to get the kayaks and boats out that probably only get used once or twice every few years when there's not a lot of places around to do that.
Yeah, like I said, I thought that was way cool. So, good job, Public Works. Whoever's idea that was.
And the school and Public Works worked together on it. So school principal and Public Works did a great job.
Yeah. And I think that's all I got right at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Swanson.
A heartfelt thank you from a couple of residents on 800 East, by the 850, by the dog park with the removal of the slats.
Okay.
They quite enjoy being able to see the people with their dogs again.
Awesome.
They were very happy. In the big windstorm, the infamous windstorm that we had, there was a tree at Mountain View Park, that was blown over. If you remember, it pulled up the concrete on the west side there. The person that lives there, who happens to be my new next door neighbor, was wondering whose responsibility it is to repair the chain link fence that was grown into the tree and is now mangled. That the city's responsibility? Is it their responsibility? Is it a split responsibility?
We'll have John research it, but I'm going to guess since it was the homeowner's tree that it is theirs.
That's my guess.
Probably the previous homeowner, it sounds like. Or is that the one who was there when the tree fell?
He's the one that was
Okay.
there when the tree went down.
But John, can you look into that one?
The idea would be that even if it's a joint facility like that, because like we did over in Green Acres where we built half the fence or paid for half of it, that if someone, it'd be the same as if someone backed their trailer through it. Sure. Your trees are your responsibility, and if they fall over, then you're supposed to cover it for your neighbors, which would include the city and our half of the fence. So.
Okay, I'll have that conversation with you. The next thing I have is the semi-trailer that has decided repeatedly that 2600 is a parking lot. on the westbound lanes of 2600, there by the sound walls. Every other week, there's a tractor, well, the tractor's never there, but the trailer is, and it'll sit there for 4, 5, 6 days. And then it appears that they're off hauling a load, and it's got to be somebody that lives right there, and they're parking their trailer right there on 2600, and it's just a hazard, and it's not a parking spot. If we could watch for that. You all saw the email that I sent out on the invocation and the pledge idea, in inviting residents and civic groups and Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts and anybody else that would like to come in and sign up for council meetings where they would come and offer the pledge, a spiritual thought, a patriotic message, if praying isn't what they like to do, and then lead us in the pledge. Any concerns? It's had good, positive feedback
Brigham's willing to do it
on
right now.
Facebook. Brigham is what gave me the idea, that video that you did of him. That was awesome.
He's ready to come right now.
That was, so,
I love it.
all right.
So-
My suggestion then is it involves Annette. I would have Annette just put together a volunteer list, and we'll have them contact the city offices and say, I'd like to bring my scout troop in or my Cub pack in, whoever it happens to be. I would, before we go live with it, though, I think we ought to have some guidelines so that it doesn't turn into a grandstanding, religion bashing, anything like that, that it's to be taken seriously. It's not there to make a public statement or a comment or anything like that. It's there to open the meeting with reverence and respect and lead us in the pledge for our country. So John, if you could maybe come up with some ideas on what those guidelines would be.
I'll look into it. I know that some cities have seen some issues with that type of thing, but it's usually the person presenting is being respectful, but audience members might respond
Right.
inappropriately. So we'll need to make sure we're
Right.
One
Aware.
time the mayor was having other people come in and
Yeah, you've had,
Yeah, we had some clergy from other faiths and stuff, but I think it was, one comment that was made on the Facebook post was it needs to be non-denominational, multi-denominational, and I agree with that. And I'm even as far as if there is someone who isn't of a particular praying faith, but they want to come in and open the meeting with a patriotic reading or something like that, that brings the spirit of America to our meeting and then lead us in the pledge, I'm good with that as well.
When I was convoy commander in Iraq, we started every mission. My men brought it up, actually, even though obviously I'm a religious person, but it was my soldiers who said they wanted to start every mission with a prayer. And so I just had any of my soldiers that wanted to do it. We, rotated around, and we had in the platoon, we had, of course, mostly Christians, but also a Wiccan who did a prayer to nature as they do, and that was interesting. We had a Native American who had some things with like tobacco and put it on different parts of the vehicle and did a prayer, and yeah, it was a very neat thing. For every mission we had, we started off with a prayer. So I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad to have a volunteer taking it on. So you and John work on some guidelines and work with Annette, and let's do it. It'll be great.
kick it off. Honestly, I sent that video to you
And your
guys,
son starts it.
and Brigham I said, would you be willing to do it? He's like, yeah, he doesn't care. He may get it from our hand wrong.
He's awesome. And then the last thing I have is the new volleyball courts are looking awesome. They are amazing. That is some great work done by the city. Awesome work. And I think our residents are really going to enjoy those courts. They're
Yeah.
going to get used well.
They're new and improved.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we're talking about the summer barbecue that we typically do for employees, to where it's during the day, and we're talking about doing it up there to get some activity involved and maybe have them stay around for the half hour, hour lunch break and have some team
Right.
building. What?
Do you have a date for that?
We don't yet. We're thinking July, mid July after Cherry Days.
And we'd like to, and I'll be emailing you the details, Council, but use, as Councilman Swanson suggested 2 years ago, we got a large rebate again for workers' compensation for having a safe workplace. And we'd like to take about a third of that again and use it on kind of a reward barbecue for our employees for being safe. So I'll get those details out to you and hopefully with a date soon as well. Okay, anything else? Councilman Satterthwaite.
So do we have a date for when we're gonna see a skate park design yet?
The geotechnical testing took much, much longer
Forever.
than expected. And frankly, I'm not exactly sure why. So that has held it up. That only was completed a week ago,
Yeah.
roughly.
Week and a half.
Week and a half ago. So they started designing immediately. And maybe Councilman Swanson, do you know a date that they're expecting to have a design done?
I do not. I'll
Okay.
get a hold of Jason. I'll send out an email tonight.
But that's why it's been held up, was the geotechnical testing.
It took forever to get done.
So they did nothing with the design as they shouldn't have until that report came back and they knew, what the soil condition was to be able to design it. So basically, we're about a month behind, long story short. So they will be producing a design. Councilman Swanson will get us an update, and then they'll have another meeting, invite the skating community and anyone else from the community that would like to come and see the proposed design and give feedback. So that will be the next step. Still correct? Okay.
Yes.
So sounds like we'll get an update as well, but that's where it is.
Okay, and then just one other thing, I just wondered, is there anything that we can do to address what I think is misinformation kind of a problem for the annexation thing? Do we just, maybe we've already, it's in the county's control, I guess, but
The timeline definitely was at the county's decision. I let you know that. Annette, have you received many calls? I know there have been some.
Any?
Oh, none? Okay.
Because my staff's sending them all to me. I haven't received one.
Okay. So I think we'll see what happens after the county hearing next week. I have no idea what to expect. I really haven't much talked to the county other than when they had asked if we were ready to move forward. I said we weren't, largely because the cost of annexation hadn't been resolved. But they said, well, we would still like to go ahead and make the recommendation, and then it's up to you if you choose to go with it or not. So, we could send something out from their mailing list, but I think it probably would cause more trouble than.
maybe we wait till after the public hearing. That's probably the smart thing to do, and then evaluate where.
And there's, once they make the recommendation, you can decide to not even discuss it if you wish, or we can look at some of them or all of them. It's completely at the city council's discretion at that point.
Yeah, the way that because I went to a meeting before and echoed the same thing the mayor did, which is, why are we going so fast? We don't even, and they just are going with what they've been instructed the staff is. But I said, can you please make sure that you're at least doing each island as a separate recommendation so that the city doesn't have to accept all of the resolution. We can do it piecemeal, and that's the plan, is they might do one motion that says we recommend annexation of these following different proposals, but the city will be able to look at them individually and say, you know what, for this property, it really doesn't work, it doesn't meet the statute, or it doesn't meet what we think we want, and for these it does, and so we could cherry pick if we wanted to, the ones that make most sense to do, if we do any. So.
Cherry picking has its own set of consequences. So you pick some and not others. Did we pay for those? And then does that mean an obligation to pay for others later?
And there's still discussion about what the cost will be. That's still actually not resolved. So I'll get you the information as soon as we get anything from the county of what the cost will be and how that will be allocated.
Just maybe not, sort of incidentally, Ryan Brown talked a little bit about the problem with manufacturing businesses, and I understand that there are manufacturing businesses in the county who have a parcel of property fairly large, and they will somehow get their attorneys to carve out a little property right around the meter that stays in the county so that they don't have to pay that municipal tax. It's not an issue for North Ogden because I don't think we have any of those businesses, but that's maybe something they didn't anticipate.
Attorneys are known to be creative like that, so.
Oh, yeah, it's worth $100,000 and $200,000, and they can. That's what they do.
Why not?
Okay, anything else?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Stoker.
I think the lending library is a good idea, and especially out here. The other day when I was walking, I noticed that we have a small one there on the back side of the parking lot at Oaklawn Park, and it's been vandalized. They've taken the door off, and the slats are laying around, which I thought was really pretty sad. So that's probably a better idea where it's more visible. And then I don't know if the staff, Public Works has noticed, but again, last Saturday when we were walking, I don't know who did it or why or for even any reason, but some big equipment went up 1050 right there on that driveway that goes into Wadman Park. A huge gouge in the concrete or in the asphalt. So I don't know if that can be fixed or if it's just what it is now.
A lot of times those are trailers, fifth wheels that have those
It could have
feet.
been when he did the
And when they go up,
tongue. It
the
went
back
down
of
in
it
and
drops down and it'll gouge.
it did. It put a big gouge in there, which I thought was pretty sad.
Yeah. Well, it may be something that a patch could be done. We'll find out. On 1050 by Wadman?
It's right as it goes in that the driveway.
Put that on the notes for Thursday. Okay, thanks.
And then also, I thought it was a good idea to have our code enforcement go around and, tell the workers that of our noise ordinance. But I also don't think it's a bad idea to follow up with something in writing and hand to them so they know.
I think it's very likely we already are giving out something, but that's why we'll find out on that for sure, what the procedure is when someone gets a permit, and we'll report that back so you know as well.
And I might be wrong, but I believe this is being built by the homeowner individually.
It's not a
And
contract.
so it's the weekend when they're available
can
to
do
do the
it.
construction. But I'm confident they've been told it's not acceptable, and so, it's hard to know there just needs to be some other involvement, and we need to, my plan is to just let the chief know, to have one of our officers go by and just see if anything's going on, because it's a misdemeanor, which is a crime, and under current state law, this is one of those things we have to change. Crimes all have to be issued a ticket by a license or a uniformed officer. Andra can't give out criminal tickets. And so that's one of those ordinances we're gonna modify to make it clear that she's writing civil tickets, not criminal ones and things like that, so.
Okay, good idea. Thank you. And that's all I had. Oh, and I'm really disappointed that you're going to put it out for more people to say prayers, so I won't have to anymore.
Okay.
It's so you'll campaign from off the curb next time.
I know.
Okay. I've got a bunch of updates I'll be sending out to you, but here's just a quick couple. The Standard Examiner is doing a nice story about the amphitheater project, so watch for that. The asphalt trails we talked about by Green Acres Elementary, we've got some bids back, and the one on 1700 North is about $4,500. The one on 2100 North is about $6,500. So they were not much. So we'll be getting some proposals back after we see what the school or PTA is willing to contribute towards the project, similar to what we did on 2550. So just a little heads up there. And lastly, our gravel truck ordinance Enforcement has been ongoing, but unfortunately, all our cases were thrown out because we didn't have some words on our sign. So we issued some citations, and then there was some exact wording that needed to be on the signs. So those have now been changed. John, is there anything you want to add on that?
So it's more complicated than that. There's an obscure provision in state code that I didn't find when writing the ordinance. And it basically says, in order to do it, you have to have an engineering study that says because of climactic conditions, these certain type of vehicles aren't on these roads because it'll cause an excess, problems. And so I think that we're going to have to take a step back and look at how to approach it again, see if the engineering data supports it. In my mind, if there's one road in the city or in the close proximity to the city that would have engineering data saying it's a bad idea, and it would be the Divide Road. But that would mean we'd need to work with the county on having them restrict access on that road. But it's more problematic than I originally thought, but it's a provision that an attorney for one of these developers or these excavators found, and attorneys love to find obscure provisions that no one's thought about for 30 years. So it might be something that the legislature needs to address next year as well, because we're in a rough situation where we're next to a gravel pit, but we don't benefit at all from it. And then those big belly dump trucks come down the road, and it really does just tear our roads apart to have that heavy of a vehicle come up and down them all the time. So
we're still working on it. Just a little update for you. We ran into some snags from some of the gravel pit attorneys or trucking company attorneys because they want to run through here to go to the Ogden Valley and for all the construction that's happening out there.
They want to go over the divide.
what they've told me is empty trucks going over, full trucks coming down the canyon. So they're using the canyon with the full trucks, and then empty trucks are coming this way or that way. On 12th Street. Yeah, because the grade is not as bad, which makes sense to me, although I'm surprised their insurance companies would let them go over the divide, even empty. It just, that grade is so steep, I can't, if their air brakes went out, they'd have nowhere to go except into the hill or off the hill. So.
Right.
Okay, and that is all I have. So
Move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We are adjourned.
Short and sweet. Gotta finish these.
We'll blame it on Jim. 'cause he-
Yeah, he missed the fast one.